Hello, and welcome to the Old Farm Bus Podcast. This is the back of the bus session.
Hello and welcome to the Old Farm Bus Back of the Bus Sessions podcast. Today I've got a new mate on here. I've got no worries we're going to run out of content because we've already been talking for 2 hours before this and it's been fucking fantastic. I really love this bloke. I've got to thank again Owen Oxley from Full Reptile. I've got him over here and over here. You've met me with some of the best people I've ever met recently, so I really do appreciate that. I'm going to welcome aboard Tony Unwin.
Yay.
Yeah.
Give yourself a clap.
Brother, how are we doing? I feel like I've genuinely met a new mate today.
Well, no, I feel likewise. It's been an experience already. That's
when you just meet someone, you go, "Where have you been?"
Yeah, you find that though in life, don't you? So some people click, and then some people take a little time to sort of like warm up, and stuff. To be absolutely, we're just all the same people, aren't we? At the end of the day, you can tell straight away.
With different barriers and levels to you as you go on through life, and I think a lot of your barriers are down now. It just comes across. You're quite an open book.
I guess.
That's just the thought that I've had.
I mean,
but
that's nice to know. I don't think I've ever been that closed off. I'm guessing I probably have been at some point, but I've got not a lot to prove to people anymore, if you know what I mean. I've got to that point in my life where I'm not actually looking for validation or acceptance or anything else that people really, really need in their life. I'm quite happy. As I said to you before, one of the best news I've had this week is I'm going to be a grandfather for the first time, and that was the best thing that ever happened. It's amazing.
Wow, mate, congratulations on that note. I just want you to tell the audience what you actually do before we get into the nitty gritty of life and all the other crazy stuff. Do you have a job title that you go and meet people with?
I guess, primarily I own 2 tattoo studios. I am a tattooist, and I kind of fell into that world about 20 years ago now, and started my own studio up shortly after. I guess it was very difficult for me, being an older person coming into a new job or a new thing. You say new job. I tried to explain how it fell into it. I was actually designing the stuff I was doing, specifically the Polynesian inspired stuff, before I even knew what it was. And our friend Owen was the man that basically guided me to a computer and said, "You design this stuff," and sent me on a journey that I both love and hate him for. Is
he genuinely the sort of catalyst behind it?
He
then?
was the catalyst.
Wow.
And this is, I tried to allude to it before when we was talking about it, the sort of, when you find people that you need at the time, they will catapult you into where you should be at that point, to the next phase of whatever. That's how I feel about it. I feel I was blessed to return the favour to Owen, in that whilst training with Fourth Dimension and stuff, I was approached to do some design work and this, and I couldn't do it because the tattoo work was so intense at the time. And I turned around to Wayne and I says, "But there is a guy I know who can do it." And literally, Owen walked through the door that very second, and I looked and I was like, and he's here.
No, mate.
It was like it was rehearsed or something. It was just like,
Dude.
Enter stage left, Owen Oxley.
Is that legit?
Yeah,
I've
absolutely.
I just got goosebump moment again.
So
That's incredible.
He'd basically come down to start training with the jiu-jitsu stuff and stuff down at Fourth Dimension, and I was like, and he's just walked in, and he was like, "Hey, dude," he's like, he walks in,
the best Owen.
you know what I mean? And I was like, "What's up?" And I was like, "Right, Wayne needs this, and this. Can you hook him up?" He was like, "Yeah, man. Yeah, of course I can." You know what I mean? And Owen's just so infectious, and he's just like energy. It's just an energy overload most of the time. But and that was it. That was the start of Owen's kind of path into that world. I've always been a fan of the UFC. Always watching, but that was his kind of like the start of him doing the graphics and the design work within that
realm,
and then he just took it and he just rolled with it, and he's where he is now, and
no pun
proud
intended.
of him. Yeah, absolutely. He's so proud of the dude. He's proper took the bull by the horns, and
Are you good? Because are you into UFC in that world? Or
I was into it a lot more than I am now.
but not to Owen degree.
No, he's a proper anorak.
So,
You know,
so are you kind of very happy that you didn't take that opportunity because
Yes,
somebody more
absolutely.
fitting for that situation had it?
I've got my role in life. He's got his.
Yeah.
And I couldn't be more happier for him. He's smashing it, and all the power to him.
So which happened first? He gave you your inspiration and told you what?
I believe he actually bought me my first tattoo machine.
Wow.
And basically said, "You aren't going to be happy until you've learned how to do this."
This is one of my favourite little stories at the start of a podcast. This is stunning.
No, that was kind of the origin story of where I am right now. Obviously, I've lived a few lives. You know what I mean? Before, different way. I've travelled around a bit. I've been very blessed in having, I would say, creative and influential people that I've met along the way, become friends for a period of time. Some have stayed with me, some haven't stayed with me. But Owen's always there. He's always there. He's somebody I don't have to talk to. I've got about 4 or 5 friends that I consider close.
Yeah.
But we're not physically ever close, if you
Friends
know what I mean.
for life.
Yeah, we're connected in a way that is not really explainable. You know what I mean? It's one of those, and I know for a fact if like I've said before, if I needed any advice, if I could pick his brains and this, that, and the other, or if I needed any help, he's one of those fellas that would just be there. And I would hope I would be the same, the same back. It's been interesting. His creativity, his energy is just something to. He is the Duracell bunny of full reptile.
How do you make it stop? Can we go into the meat of that story then a little bit? Because what was it? Were you at Egg doing this?
I returned back from Canada back in 2005 after a life fail that has basically set me up to not fail.
One of those big ones in the timeline.
It was a big one in the timeline.
I needed that.
Yeah, I needed to face plant the world.
Yes.
So yeah, basically I came back and I started working at Egg. I think I was back at my mum's house for a couple of months, and then I was in a flat living on a milk crate for a bit. That was it. You know what I mean? I was literally starting from zero.
Wow.
I came back here. Obviously, I've got 2 daughters as well that were here, so I wanted to be back around them. And yeah, I started work at Egg. Started off in the borrowing centre, and our training team was the research and development team from Egg at that time. Second day in, I'm drawing some stuff on a pad because I was drawing these things, and I was just enjoying doodling and doing these things.
Is this in break time, sort of?
I just drew.
Just because.
Yeah, it was just there.
Not break time, but boredom time.
I was soaking in what was going on.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I was also sort of doodling and this. Next minute, Owen comes up, and this young lad, and I knew he was one of the trainers. And he looked at me and I was like, "No way, dude, you do Maori tattoos and stuff." I'm like, "I do what?" And he says, "Come with me." And he basically typed up. I told you this before. He typed up this other artist from Holland, this guy Rob Duke, and the work was so similar to what I was drawing at the time. It kind of sucked me in and got me. I was like, "Oh, what is this?" And that's when I started sort of looking into what I was doing, to what he was showing me and what this was. And then, like I said before, it was it's been a journey, understanding the the sort of the Kiratui, the Polynesian sort of style of work, and this idea that I was kind of drawing before I even knew what it was.
Yeah.
So then trying to find the information of what it is, what the significance of it is, what the flow is, how the flow goes, what the symbolism means, because that is a minefield in itself. And yeah, that's took me till now to sort of, and I'm still loving producing that style of work. Hopefully to a high level. There has been some very nice comments worldwide about my work, especially from. It means more when it comes from kind of like New Zealand or something.
From the culture.
From the culture itself, and it's been a very encompassing kind of development, if you like, and stuff. But yeah, I don't know really what else to say about that one.
You don't need to go to the whole origin of that as an art form and all the history, but could you educate me a little bit about Maori and how, everything you just spoke of then? What is it? What does that mean? What is the symbolism? What have you discovered on your road?
It's very, because I'm not Maori.
Yeah.
I'm not from New Zealand. Obviously, it's very difficult to sort of really say that a lot of the art form and from the culture itself is just ingrained in their identity. The people, it connects them to their land. It connects them to their origins. And a lot of this pattern work, although similar right the way through the Polynesian sort of world, sort of what look like arrowheads, which is the path of a turtle, which everything sort of links to nature and sea animals and sea creatures, the way they behave and the way they are, whether they're spirit animals or the protectors of their culture and their particular tribe or something like that. And these elements are put into specific their tattoos along with family lineage and sort of things like areas of a female tattoo will start the male tattoo, and you know what I mean. So you get the same pattern, which will be the start of the larger pattern for somebody, the larger work for somebody else. So it was difficult back here getting the information, because obviously the church has done quite a good job of trying to stamp out this pagan practice, and there seems to be, from tattooing a lot of sort of New Zealand people, both Maori and non-Maori, and other nations as well, sort of Fijians and Samoans. There seems to be a disconnect a lot of the time with a lot of stuff. There is a lot of information still out there, but you really have to dig for it and find it, and have to do a lot of sort of searching. But for the grand scheme of things, from being here, the word Kiratui means just skin art. It's got no connection to the lineage side of things, or apart from the look. It looks like a Maori tattoo or a Samoan tattoo or a Fijian tattoo. I adopted the way of doing everything freehand. So the flow is different, everything's unique, although the pattern work is similar throughout the tattoos, whether you look at 5 or a couple together or a bunch of them. The pattern work will reflect the similar sort of things, but the flow will be different. There will be different elements within it, and different turns. The karu is the negative space within the actual tattoo itself, which is basically the life of the person. So it starts and then it flows. You'll see it turn and twist on itself, which are what's called karutiti, which is the death of one frond and the beginning of another. So usually allocated to points of time that have been major changes in life: marriage, death, new jobs, new directions. Something that ends, and then starts again. Your life starts again into a different
So they'll
way.
come in and get a bit of a tattoo, and then it's forever developing and changing.
Yes, always developing. It's always moving. It's always flowing around the body. It's always, sort of. For me now, it's kind of just finding the intricacies of how it flows, and sort of where it goes to, the sort of past, present, and the future of within the body, whether it be, as well. Sort of, it's yeah.
I'm really enjoying this actually, because I love tattoos. But do you know, when I saw the Maori tattoo, I know so little about it, but when I see it on sort of somebody local from Ripley or somebody down in these ends, I didn't know the history and the beauty of it, because I've always had a very philosophical nature, and I love the bigger questions in life. And to see it sort of just on somebody's arm, and then I ask them about it, and the response has always been just cool, innit? Nice pattern. But for you to go, no, this is the history, this is the root, this is the why of it.
I mean, I'm only touching the surface.
Yeah.
I'm not,
Giving it the gravitas.
I mean, I was invited to go down to New Zealand and learn carving. Unfortunately, my situation never allowed me to go down there. I actually believe if I went down there and started doing that, I would never come back. I actually love this form of image, and the art form around it, and it is so connected, like I say, within the carving, within the culture, within the marae, which is a spiritual house for the it tells the story. It's got the gods. It's got the stories of how the native stories of how
I'm getting a buzz.
everything connects. It's fascinating. It really is fascinating. It's such a shame that a lot of the information is no longer available. So even I've had conversations with people from New Zealand who go specifically for the Akira Tui style image, which gives them the look and the connection from the visual point of view of a traditional looking tattoo. But it's not the tomoko, it's not the gift, it's not the sort of their actual spiritual journey, as well as having this tattoo is a bit of there is a connection to their spirituality whilst being done, as well as the content of the shapes and marks that are being put onto the body. It is quite it's a whole world of information that you will.
It's a new world to me.
Yeah, it's been around for thousands of years. I mean, it's not actually new. But it is. Since you got 20 odd years ago or whatever, the Robbie Williamses of this world sort of started to wear Maori sort of tattoos, and they became more accepted. Back then, it was quite frowned upon.
I was just going to ask, how do they receive it in the culture?
Initially, it was quite negative. They were offended. It's what they would call now on the left, like sort of cultural appropriation.
Yes.
And I guess they realised at some point that this wasn't going to stop, but they needed to separate
Love that.
Separate themselves, their culture and the cultural aspect of it, to the fad, the fashion element of it. So they reinvented they didn't reinvent the word. The word kiratui is a word that's before the tattoo. Tribes would paint their skin with the same markings.
Right.
So
okay.
it wasn't actually in there permanent. It was just painted on and stuff. And they used to do that. From what I've read from the sort of research that I've managed to pick up over time. So the word kiratu was basically reinvented or reappropriated to categorize non-Maori and non-tribal people wearing images that look like.
It's to protect themselves
and protect their cultural
identity.
identity.
Mate, I love this.
Yeah, and so And over time, it's become more and more accepted as a tattoo style, and it's now obviously there's a lot of people in the world wearing very similar sort of tattoos. It gets a little bit sticky still if you take, let's say, The Rock. The Rock's tattoo, which has been replicated millions of times on a variety of people in a variety of ways, done really badly, done really well, changed slightly, this, but it's fundamentally based on Dwayne The Rock Johnson's tattoo, which has specific information from the island he's from and his family, which is not really...
you can't just take that
It's
on.
not really acceptable,
Yeah.
I guess he's kind of numb to it because there's not a lot he can do once it's in people's skin. It's there, but it depends where you sit.
There's a point where it's flattery because you've seen it and you're inspired by it, but then there's another point where you're just trying to imitate.
That's right. I mean, you'll notice on my pictures, everything is inspired. It's Kiratui inspiration, because, like I say, I'm not Maori. I'm not trained by a Maori tattoo artist, and I've flogged myself silly learning this stuff, and I've been doing it for like say 20 years or so now. So the positive comments I've had very few negative ones, to be absolutely honest.
But a few.
I think back in the early days, it's sort of you get into these conversations, and a lot of the time it is kind of, their opinion and their take on it. That's why I make sure that I'm not actually going out there saying I am this, because I know I'm not. So I do what I do because I have a passion for this work, which I was designing before I even knew what it was. Which it sounds really difficult and odd, but when you're sort of just doodling and drawing things, and I have no influence as to what they were, this kind of connects me back to the way the Maori and the Polynesian people feel about mana. The tattooist is not the person doing the tattoo. He's a conduit.
It's not their ego self portraying it.
He's a conduit from the ancestors and whatever forces may be, what they call mana.
This is stunning.
Is coming through, and that's what that's the tattoo, and that's why a lot of Polynesian people are very happy to go to a tattooist who they trust, to do their work, and simply say, "Do it." You know what I mean? They just let them go, and they're happy with the end result because they know
there's no expectation.
There's no expectation of it. Oh, I don't want this there. I want this here. I want this here, and there's none of that.
What came was meant to come.
Exactly, and it's positioned exactly how it should be, which is a very freeing kind of mentality, if you like. It's a very kind of easygoing, non-controlled kind of acceptance in the energies of the world, I guess.
I wished I'd met you before I went to New Zealand.
Oh, really?
Just this. These are the conversations I like best because I enjoy conversations where I can sort of give my take on things, an idea towards it. Mm-hmm. But this is where I have nil background knowledge of, so all I'm doing here is learning and taking in everything you're saying with genuine curiosity, and I'm really involved going, this is cool. I feel I'm leveling up from just this conversation because I've got no preconceived idea of it or little fact. So I'm just really enjoying it.
I mean, for me, there's a lot I could still learn. There's a lot that I don't know.
Well, you put me on a journey.
But it's continuous, isn't it? It's there is always more to learn. There is always more to everything. So you just got to involve yourself in it and get yourself to the levels. And when you feel you're at a level, then don't think you know it, because you don't.
Mate.
You don't know anything until the minute. I think I always feel same with anything. The minute you feel you know it all, you've already lost the game, because there's always something else that needs to be learned. Always moving forward, never stop learning, because even with things like this, with culture, with for me being involved in tattoos and stuff like that, and making a career out of it, and now owning 2 shops, which I never thought would actually happen ever. You know, it's quite a head spin, really, to be honest. I'm still learning. I'm still doing different things,
mate.
You know.
Well, I've got so many beautiful questions inside of this, because again, you can get me booked in already, because I've, like I was saying, I mean, I've got lots of different tattoos that I've given meaning to. They've all been integral parts of my life, where important information or just moments of beauty came into my life at a time where I needed it. So I thought, right, that's got a place. But again, the Maori thing, I never understood this beautiful spirituality and philosophy into it.
The Maori culture, in most native cultures, are in essence very spiritual.
Yes.
They are so connected to more than, as a Westerner, we've ever been experienced or open to, unless you're lucky enough to have sort of found a way into tasting a part of that life. Obviously, there is negatives that history has, sort of, it's just delivered to various cultures in the world. But I mean, I've even spent time with the Lakota Sioux family in South Dakota. You know, it was one of the most magical times of my life. It was amazing. You know, you see Native Americans, Maori people, the sort of, Native people all over the world, basically. The philosophies are all to do with the world around them. A lot of them involve a lot of animals. And like I said before, the way animals are, their attitudes or their mannerisms and things like this, even the Chinese are fighting styles and stuff like that. Animals and... The Lakota have a word, have a phrase which basically translates to all my relations. And that encompasses everything. That means everybody and every living creature. We are all connected, which also goes into another sort of, I firmly believe in a global consciousness. That not many people will either acknowledge on the face of it, but how do you have an idea that no one's ever spoke to you about, yet 2 months later somebody in China's done it?
In the Amazon.
Or somebody... absolutely. There is, and it only comes at specific...
Connection,
the connection,
oneness.
It becomes in... It's not as if it's sort of like years.
Well, it's in your story.
At that time.
You were doing this artwork
Exactly.
with no influence or no idea behind it, and it was an ancient age thing that you were stumbling across. And that's kind of what I wanted to go into there just for a moment is, I've not given it the respect that it warrants, these tattoos. I've looked at them in a certain light, like, I wonder why people go for that. And the journey you're taking me on is giving me heart palpitations of excitement, because next time I can
I'm
really...
not a paramedic, so
don't take me that. And I've had a pre-workout today.
You didn't get your spa though.
Do you have any... have you gone into that part of your journey where you were just doing doodles, and any mind or thought on why you were taken to that form of art and doing it in that certain way?
No.
It was just pattern to you.
Yeah. Shapes. It was just shapes and lines. Something's just hit me in there. But basically, it was just shapes and lines and pattern at the time. The way that just linking of lines, you know what I mean, and stuff like that. And then, I don't know if it's going to sound weird, but basically I watched, there's a program on TV, on Netflix at the moment, and it's some American medium, psychic dude, who draws these scribbles And I noticed, I just flicked it on the other day. I watched a couple of the episodes on it. It's quite interesting. I'm not really kind of sure about that sort of type of communication, if you know what I mean. But I did notice him drawing, and I noticed the scribbles, and in particular the way some boxes intersected and crossed over whilst he was drawing them. There is a language within the drawing, but he is connecting to an energy, you know, and I think that literally just dawned on me. They just was it a similar thing with regards to the patterns I was drawing? I honestly don't know. I was tapping into an energy. I have been in I have sort of researched spiritual kind of or spirituality, let's say, and it fascinates the life out of me because there's so much that is not known, but there is so much positive that comes from either being connected to or experiencing some form of spiritual connection or
a truth.
Whether it's a self-truth, a self-belief, whether it's actually a connection, I don't know. It's just one of those things. But there's a painting in one of my studios, and it's a Native American. When I painted it, I basically lost 6 hours of time. My auntie kept coming into the shed bringing me cups of tea. I will not forget it. She was, "Do you want a cup of tea?" Yeah, go on then. I'm scratching away at this canvas, you know, thinking. And there's this painting, and when I finished it, I kind of looked up, and it's a very abstract, kind of black bonnet warrior. It's apparently a black bonnet was a Lakota warrior type thing, and the detail in these feathers is incredible, and just the various sort of things that are put in there. There's the shadows that form the face is a woman kneeling down with another figure and a pathway into mountains. I saw this and I was like, oh, this is a bit weird. So I sent it to a friend of mine online somewhere. This was, when would this be? Probably before I went to Canada. Yeah, it would have been a lot before. So late 90s, sort of that kind of area. And I just got a message saying a friend of mine will phone you or will contact you. So I got a message with a phone number on it, and so I really like your work. Call me. So I phoned this number, and it was in America. I contacted a woman by the name of Marianne Whitemouse. Well, she passed away about a month or so ago. Rest her soul. And she was a Lakota activist woman living in South Dakota in a place called Wombly. Never heard of it before in my life. And literally picked up the phone, and she's like, "Hey, is that you?" I'm like, "Yeah, how are you doing?" And she's like, "When you coming home?" And I'm like, "What? What's that all about?" She's like, "No, I've spoke to Mum. She said you can stay at the house, no problem." And that was the start of me being out in, it was something from her. She says, "Oh, by the way, love your work." I'm like, "Thanks." So within a few weeks, I was actually in South Dakota, being picked up by a bunch of dudes at McDonald's in Rapid City.
As you do.
Yeah. Yeah. And went out onto the reservation. I didn't know if I were coming back. You know what I mean? It was one of them. It was just how it went out there. And it was just amazing. Just absolutely an amazing time. Wow. And I've still got that painting today, and it stays in my studio. I don't know what else it is. I don't know what it would be, but it just, these connections happen. And whether you think spiritually about them or whether you think that it's all kind of random, I don't know.
I'm on the same nuanced perspective.
Yeah.
Do you know? It is interesting though, as you're reaching a flow state and just drawing shapes and patterns and in this sort of contentment and tapping into whatever it is, and then suddenly Owen, jolly old
Doors
Owen,
open. Yeah.
comes open. It's like, because you're there just being, but you're receptive to it and you're open to those moments.
Yeah.
Because you could have really just gone over and like, oh, that's cool, and then walked off and just been like, oh, that's an interesting comparison, but just carried on just being the person you are. But you were open to a moment of, oh, okay, this has been shown for a reason.
Yeah.
There's more to this, and then you've gone down a bit of a path from it. So you've chosen
or a rabbit hole.
Yes, yeah.
Sometimes not very
and is
easy.
it beautiful or is it dark? Either way, a bit of both. Always, there's balance to it. But it does feel, when you live your authentic self and you do reach your flow states. I'm a poet and I love poetry, and I've been doing it for about 5 or 6 years. And I got into it because I was always told dyslexic and stupid, and I got asked to leave my schools. But I lost a friend, and it was a knife crime incident. But the second I was told that, and I started writing down, it wasn't me doing it.
Yeah.
It was something
Auto-writing.
other. Yeah, it genuinely just tapped into me. It was this catharsism that needed to come out for a long time. It was like on the paper. Yeah. But then ever since then, it's opened up. I've performed on stages with people I never thought I'd met in my life. Yeah. But it doesn't feel like it was the ego of Mikey doing that. It was just, ever since then, it was my authentic self coming out, and it just kept hurtling me into these situations because I was ready for it.
Yeah.
It feels like a very different story. A very similar story, but different spaces.
Yeah, and it is. It's, I don't think it's subject specific. I think it's the energy that catapults you forward.
What you allow.
And then when somebody comes in as the catalyst to actually trigger what you need to take that next leap.
Yes.
Whether you realise you're taking the leap at that point is a different matter, you know, or you just all of a sudden wake up halfway through this going, shit, where did I get here? You know what I mean? How did this happen?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What? I've just done that? No way. You know what I mean? Yeah. This is incredible. And then the doors open again, and then you'd move on to something else, and then it may be time to relax a little bit. And then you sort of reset.
Don't force it.
You reset, and again, in time, something else will start to trigger. Hence, we're moving on to something completely different from the tattoo thing I've been doing for a long time. And I think the obviously the lockdowns and stuff, they trigger some other things to happen because we couldn't do things. So I started doing airbrushing and custom paintwork.
There we go.
You know, I started doing that. I started doing helmets.
Round 2.
I started doing helmets, and then all of a sudden, I've got way too much work on. Too much happening all at one go. Yeah. And then the tattoo shop's open again, and there's way too much going on. So something has to give. I'm not a machine. No. So something has to give. But I've already got such a bit of notoriety in that world now because I literally, man, it takes me about 4 to 6 weeks to do a custom helmet. Yeah. I got 17 jobs land on me in 2 days.
Wow.
As soon as they announced they were opening tracks and this, that and the other, boom. My front room was just stuck full of showy and Arai boxes. And then I've got 2 years worth of clients phoning saying, when can we get in? Because they've not been in with the lockdowns and stuff, not been able to get in with us. Wow. So the passion element starts to take a knock because it then becomes work.
Because you are human.
And and it becomes like you've got to start churning out designs.
Yes.
But then it becomes non-fulfilling because you're churning out designs and you're not feeling the designs. As in,
just become robotic.
You just become robotic. Yes, it's a mechanical. Yeah, you can do it. Your brain will switch into automatic, and you can do the job, and the clients are happy. That's the key. As long as the clients are happy, you can get through this. Personally, you start to take a knock psychologically because it's not fulfilling. You're not able to enjoy the journey yourself as an artist or as a creative. So it then becomes it becomes that work,
Yeah.
that work
Life
passion,
balance.
work passion balance,
Yes.
which starts to interrupt itself, and then you have to take a step back. You have to, if you want to keep, any sort of resemblance of being the artist.
Well, before we rock to that point where we're at sort of now, I'd love to go from the Owen bit
Yeah.
and then showing you this rabbit hole, let's say,
Right.
to you were working at Egg,
Yeah.
and then you end up working in studios for different people under your own belt. Where'd you go from there?
No, it just all developed on my own.
So you were
I was
doing
on
it from
my
home?
own. I basically had a studio based at home.
Cool.
I went through all the loops, all the hoops, and
What was the room
health.
before that? Was it like a living room space, and you thought,
It was
no,
actually
I'm
it was a
taking
dining
it.
area.
You had a little
space.
dining area.
Yeah, it was a dining area space, and with like a conservatory,
Yes.
a window in there. And then basically, I remember contacting the environmental health to say, I want to do this. How do I do it? And they were like, oh my God. You know what I mean?
Was
It's
that
sort of
because
one of those-
Egg wasn't for you, in essence?
No, I didn't feel it like that. I mean, I started in the borrowing centre, and that was soul destroying for me. I really felt uncomfortable giving people payment breaks on credit card debt that they could never repay, and then recalculating their debt over a longer period with
Yeah, I'm with
basically
you, yeah.
costing them more money.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is so dumb. It's
You were listening to
unbelievable.
people
The
who
people that were phoning up,
so naive.
They were phoning up, desperately needing a payment break for 3 months so they could buy their kids Christmas presents.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Make them, God.
do you know what I mean? Just stop. No, but I want this one. You have to explain.
Get some wood. Go and make them a
Man,
go-kart.
it was just this thing that people
They'll love you for much more.
Yeah, exactly. Just wanting to just sort of give their kids. I mean, you can understand it from a certain perspective, but there comes a time when you've got to say no. You know what I mean?
This is
You
really
can't
unhealthy.
you can't have a new Xbox this week, Alfie. You know what I mean? It's not happening. It's going to cost me. I could have bought you 3 of them by the time I've paid this credit card debt off. It really didn't bother me. So I was lucky enough to the research and development team started advertising only a couple of weeks or a couple of months after I got into Egg. So I applied because obviously I'm a bit more creative than I am a phone monkey. So I applied for it, and apparently the boss of who was doing the interviews said that my explanation as to I managed to put a box in what research and development was, because I basically have you ever heard of the Red Bull Flirt Tag?
No.
It's where teams of people get given basic equipment, and they have to make a flying machine, and then they run this flying machine off a ramp into the sea. You've probably seen it.
I know it now, yeah.
Yeah.
Now you've explained it,
So,
I fully know what you're on about.
I basically referred the sorry, this is making my head.
This is the headphones.
Yeah, I referred the research and development team because it had no budget. It had to fly. It had to sort of change processes. It had to do a lot of things and look into the way things were being done and make them better. But again, had no budget to do it. So it was an interesting sort of concept that I thought around, and basically it won me a position on the team. So I was now working with Owen on the same team, and we had many good years. We dressed as we were sort of there's pictures of us dressed as the egg guinea pigs. I don't remember the adverts and stuff like that. And
I've seen it.
We had some fun. Yeah, it was a fun team. The actual egg environment was very very
Unique?
it was very unique in but very progressive.
Yeah.
In that the majority of people that work there it actually gave them confidence to do things, other things, and move on, and actually grow, and actually open themselves up. It was a very unique company to work for, and there's a lot of people I think are still sort of like enjoying the time that they had there. What they learnt there was way more than just processes and things like that. It was a lot. There's a lot more to that company.
It does sound a league of its own. The people that I've met, well, obviously you, David, Owen, have all spoke of it in a completely new direction that I've never heard of a company act or operate before.
Yeah, it was special.
Does feel it.
I think it was special for individuals on an individual level, as well as just an environment that was cultivating minds and cultivating change. You know what I mean? Cultivating sort of like a different perspective on the banking industry, the credit card industry. It was quite unique. It's a shame that it obviously is no longer.
Yeah,
but. It left lasting impressions on everybody that worked there. I'm pretty sure of that.
So you, from that experience, felt that you could take a passion, have that uniqueness and newness, and go into doing tattoo at your own little space because you decided what you wanted to do.
It just happened at the same time.
Okay.
It happened at the same time. And basically I used to obviously do my research stuff when I got home, draw constantly when I got home. I was still doing shifts at Egg and this and the other. I was working pretty much 7 days a week at the time, because when I wasn't at Egg paying the bills, I was learning what I needed to learn and doing the research and contacting people and doing what I needed to do for my own thing. So it was all encompassing again. It was like you can't get anywhere without putting the work in. So, basically I put the work in, but it's the work that people don't see.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's the hours and hours of
self-employment,
self-development, self sort of education, and you just do it. It becomes encompassing.
Lifestyle.
It becomes a lifestyle, and that's basically what happened. And then went on for I was when I was asked, when I started tattooing, and then obviously after a while it was starting to sort of pick up and build, and this and the other. Egg was starting to sort of like struggle, so they were looking to make redundancies, and literally got asked if I was offered redundancy, would I take it? And I was just like, hell yeah.
Leap of faith, yeah.
Give me,
I've got my road.
Show me the money.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Show me the money. I know where I'm going, and that's what funded my first actual high street studio.
So, what started making it busy? What's just even at home? This is, and you're just ready to leave Egg. But you're saying it was getting busy, there was a hum, people were coming to you. Yeah. How did you get a name in the game?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I just kept going. I just kept going. Now, it doesn't happen overnight. There are failures, there are successes, there are the in-betweens that are at the end of there. It started off kind of like quite hit and miss.
What does a failure look like? Tattooing?
Oh, it's horrible.
Do they look back at it at the end and
it's just things like the sort of machines and dealing with different types of machines, and everything's correctable if you do it. Sort of right. Yeah. So luckily a lot of the designs and stuff that I did in the past, they weren't massively sort of wrong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The machines may have failed, but they can be reworked, and that happens. It happens right from the off. You are not, brilliant at everything that you do. It takes time. Now, been at it 20 years. It's everything's second nature now. Yeah. It's just the way it is. But back in the beginning, I look back on some things, and most tattooists, I think, if they're honest with themselves, will cringe when they see tattoos that they did when they first started. Even at the time, if you thought they were really good, and they may well have been good for the time. 20 years on, you've changed a hell of a lot. And yeah, so it was.
Do you think you kept longevity of it though, because your purpose was just more than I enjoy doing this, but you had a niche and something you were interested in, involved in the culture behind the tattoos that you were doing. So
Yeah,
it kept
I believe
you,
that helped.
Kept you doing it.
Kept me
focused.
It kept me focused on doing it right.
Yes.
You know, it kept me focused on doing the right thing and pushing my own style within it, which I now believe I'm starting to really sort of like get. You know what I mean? It's my work is identifiable. There's been a an instance where there were 6 of my tattoos in a random bar in Mexico one night.
Bro.
And I got messages. It was just I just had to laugh. It was so
But
cool.
how beautiful is this in tattooing, that you're making them connections? Like people that would never have gone up to one another and had a chat, saw the artwork and have gone, I need to speak to this man.
Who did this? It was kind of thing. I got a text message saying there's 6 tattoos of you're doing in this bar in Mexico. Yeah.
That's
and
not
3 separate
that's
parties
really, really weird.
Yeah, it was bizarre, you know what I mean? Can I just
go for a wee?
Yeah.
Of course, man.
I need to just have a minute. And,
mate, of course.
You've been feeding me water. So
yeah,
going
mate.
Straight through
Don't
me.
worry, I edit this part. I need one too.
3,000 whoop-whoos later.
So we were talking about all these blokes in Mexico who met over your tattoos. And this is when you're in a bit of a good flow with tattooing. You're pretty busy.
Yeah, been going for a little while at this point, you know, and
you've had a payout from Egg as well. Then
this was way before. This was when I first. Right. That was when I first started. I put the money into the first shop.
Okay, So you're going into business now.
Yeah, starting to make it sort of like, you know, sort of formal, if you like. Although, you know, everything was legal and above board where it was. It just got me to a point where I was much more relaxed. And then I thought, okay, well, now I've got a little bit of an incentive. Let's see if we can get it. You know, now obviously the tattoo politics is a little bit.
Go on, I'm not involved in it, so.
Mate,
it's politics in every field.
There's politics in everything, but you know, the tattoo world itself can be a little bit tricky to navigate. Sort of people and egos and.
I've heard.
Stuff.
I've got a few friends that work in the industry.
Yeah, it's difficult.
What was the biggest fact? Is it just literally to playground stuff of my art's better than your art, or?
Yeah, but it doesn't stop there. It's
I said art, not arse.
Well, I want to believe you. You said arse. But basically, they. It is school ground politics. It really is. It's like, you know, everybody's fighting for turf. Everyone's fighting for kind of like, such and such is better than such and such. And it's like, stop. You know what I mean? What the hell is wrong? And you also get clients of other tattoo artists sort of like being defensive of other tattoo artists if you're sort of like close, your proximity is close or something like this. It's really bizarre. It really is. You have to have a thick skin. I mean, obviously, coming from a kind of fight gym background in many respects, I could take it. It didn't scare me, didn't bother me. Wasn't worried about it. The threats that I got initially for opening up on the high street and this, that, and the other.
Mafia stuff, like
you
stuff.
can get it's not like that now.
Yeah.
Obviously, I've been in business now for 20 years nearly. And it stopped. You know what I mean? I for the first kind of year or two, it was a little bit like that. And then when when it's sort of realised that you're not going anywhere, they tend to just get on with things. And you know, how much time do you want to give something that's not going to change? So you know, I never bothered. I just keep quiet and just keep out of all that rubbish.
It's wild, especially in the creative industry, though. the only thing that makes you unique is you. You've got your own little special gift, and people will come back to you. It's a very intimate environment, isn't it, tattooing?
It is.
So they want to be with the person that you're carving into their skin. They need a good energy there. They need a good person just in front of them, and they need to like what you do.
Yeah.
So there's so much behind it. I feel it doesn't make a lot of sense why artists get so scared about themselves.
Because I think we've slipped off the Mexico thing, haven't we? A little
Yeah,
bit.
that-
We'll go back to that at some point.
Yes.
Because but basically, I think there are two types of tattoo company. Now, more and more now, you've got artists who are coming out of university at ridiculously high levels of ability.
Yeah.
And then they're finding their way into the tattoo world because it is all of a sudden a very cool environment to be part of. Historically, it's always been kind of like frowned upon and sort of like you're all criminals. There's some very funny Facebook pages against tattooers.
God hates you.
God hates us, and apparently, if you're a tattooed person, you're 98% more liable to abuse your children.
I've seen it.
They've seen all that sort of crap.
I've seen it. Yeah.
And that's how it used to be. Now we've tattooed 82-year-old women who came into the studio because it was on her bucket list. She always wanted a tattoo, and her mum, she was frightened to death of the reaction of her family. She was 82-year-old. She'd finally got to the point where she said, "Do you know what? Stuff it. I'm doing it." And she basically had her first tattoo at 82 years old. It was quite funny. You see outside my shop now, we all ride bikes, and she used to park her little mobility scooter outside the show. It was hilarious.
Harley Davidson mobility scooter.
Yeah, mobility scooter. It was hilarious. It really was funny. And she completely didn't give a monkeys. It was funny. It was so good.
Well, do you want to jump back into the Mexico? I know it took us off board because we were talking about the two different types of tattoo artists.
Yeah.
But yeah, take us back into Mexico if there's more to it.
Yeah, well, basically it turned out obviously there were 6 of my pieces in one bar in Mexico, and I don't know if this has ever happened to anybody else, but I was getting messages like, one client of mine who he's a plastic surgeon from a very highly rated plastic surgeon, Harley Street, London University. He used to teach in this, and has got a practice in Winchester or something like this now, and he it's pretty much got half his body covered by me. So it's like kind of, okay, there's this world of like professional, and then there's the tattoo world. It's like, and he was in Cancun or somewhere that way, and went into this bar and saw this guy. So he says, "Excuse me, can I ask you, did your tattoo?" And it wasn't Tony, was it? And apparently the reaction was quite, yeah. So my little tattoo studio in Ilkeston,
Wow.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Has had quite a
It's just that unique.
far-reaching kind of like thing. I've had there's a guy, he actually was a local guy in Ilkeston. I did a Kiratui piece on him, and he went on a cruise. It was his second. I'm trying to remember back. It's it was an anniversary, wedding anniversary, I believe, and to mark this anniversary, they did a cruise around Hawaii, somewhere around that way, and
It's another culture.
yeah, they went to Hawaii on some sort of cruise or something, because it's what they did when they first got married, and this was obviously I did this piece of work on him, and the cultural representatives of the boat on the cruise actually came up to him and asked him which one of their boys did the tattoo. and he looked at me and says, "Sorry, I don't know." He said, "Which island did you do? Which one of us did? Our boys did your work?" And he was like, "No, it was Tony in Ilkeston in the UK," and they didn't believe him. They're like, "No, that's impossible. There's nobody's doing that work that well."
Really?
Yeah, and he was like, "No, seriously, here you go." And apparently that's happened to a number of people. People have been stopped in Vegas. People have been stopped in Europe. People have been stopped. I've had people fly in from Switzerland, from Paris, from a number of places for work, to get work done. I'm extremely blessed. Extremely blessed.
When they're going to that extent of coming to you, is that because not just the style, but they do have the philosophy that they want to be a part of, and because you do it so well, they're thinking, well, that's my closest place to go to get it as well done?
I don't know. I think that's an element of it. I think a lot of the time they've followed me on Instagram, they've followed me on Facebook or something like that because and they've stumbled across my work. It was one of the guys I had mentioned about the comments in on some Facebook page or website or something that Tony Unwin work is akin to up there with, and they did mention a couple of Maori tattooers,
Okay.
who I would consider as royalty,
Right.
in the tattoo, in that style of tattoo, and I would never put myself in the same sentence as them. As somebody felt that my work is kind of up there with theirs, which was extremely humbling and quite scary at the same time. It's like, oh shit, no pressure then, but that's it's people's opinions and people's. I just try not to let that sink in, and I don't let that control me. It's just I do. I constantly try and strive for my look.
Yes.
Now I've got to a point where I want it to look like my version of.
Yes.
As opposed to any other. You know what I mean? And that's what makes the Mexico thing so.
It's wild.
Poignant to me is the fact that my work was recognised somewhere else by somebody else, and it's not just generic. It's not.
Could you ever have you ever turned down doing a tattoo if you feel, quote unquote, it's not for the right reason, or they want to morph it away from what you do? Have you had people say, "Yeah, I know you've got a style, but I want this"?
I don't take it on anyway. I've never had I've never got into any kind of conversation that would mean me saying, "No, I'm not doing it like that."
I see.
Basically, people come to me and they will show me graphic designs or images of other tattoos. A lot of the time, they bring my own work back to me and say, "Oh, can I have this?" And I'm like, "No." Why? I said, "You can have a version of it,
Yes.
but you cannot have that one because I will do it freehand."
Yeah.
So everything's drawn freehand, nothing's duplicated. So the fact that I'm working freehand on you will mean that the flow is completely different. I will take it in a completely different way just because so I tend to talk like we did earlier, and so I get a feeling for the person and see what's and add the elements that within the tattoo that they want. You were saying about your tattoos, all our poignant sort of moments in your life and in your various sort of like
Timelines of the journey.
Yeah, they would be represented within the actual tattoo. Whether we do them the same as the wheel or the sort of something like that, it'll be within the pattern somewhere within there.
I love this.
Yeah. So we'd work in your personal elements, And they're not the same as a Maori person's personal elements, because theirs would be more structured within their culture. We can be a little bit more freer in many ways, in that we can add elements that necessarily wouldn't be there, because if you was having a completely traditional look, you probably wouldn't put a ship's wheel
Yes.
in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I completely get you. Yeah.
You may not put sort of
You're putting a spin on it. No.
yeah,
No
yeah,
pun.
no, exactly, no pun. But you probably wouldn't if it was a traditional look.
Yes.
So we do have a little bit of flexibility with the Kiritui style, because it is a representation and an inspiration, or inspirational look from that.
Do you feel a duty though, while you're sat with somebody, to educate and tell them the history and the culture behind it?
Not so much anymore. No. Not so much. Not many people. I tell enough. You know, if you know what I mean, because
And if they're
you don't wanna
inspired, they'll go down
if
that.
they'll ask questions.
Yes, yeah.
You know, they'll ask questions if they're inspired, if they want to know more. And you know, the internet knows far more than I do. You know what I mean? There's still sort of, like I say, there's still a lot I don't know. There's still a lot that I could really immerse myself into, and I would absolutely love it. You know, a Samoan sort of hand tapper. We used to do the tattoo shows and conventions, and I got to meet a couple of sort of traditional guys, and it was really nice one day to sort of walk into, I think it was a London show, and one of these guys shouts me across the road, "Hey Tony," sort of thing, and I was like, it's I won't mention his name, but you know,
Yeah.
he said, I was like, how's he doing? He's like, good, are you? And I'm like, yeah. And he knows what I do. He's a complete traditional Samoan tattooer. You know, he does the ceremonies before he starts tattooing. He hand taps everything, and it's his life. It's
Yeah.
his family's life. You know what I mean? But he said about me, he respects what I do, because people like me keep his culture alive. Every time I tattoo, this is his words, not mine. Every time that I tattoo the same shapes, I'm promoting his culture, which he is 100% like behind. As long as obviously people understand the reality of this is just skin art. This is
You're not taking
Kiritui.
it for
This
granted
is,
as
don't
well.
take this for granted. You are just, you know, this is just art. This
Yes.
is just pattern art on somebody like me himself. Apart from the times where we add our own elements into it, and obviously the flow and you can always adopt the flow of a tattoo is how it works with your body anyway. So that's completely personal. That's completely who you are. And as long as they to the trained eye, look different. And I say different when they're obviously in my style.
Yes.
So they're going to look similar because they're in my style. We don't know, these people doing these tattoos all have a style that is, to the trained eye, very specific. But it's different to what other people do. Some people can't get the balance right. And there's a lot of balance about it. You know, it's about the width of the negatives against, you know, the sort of the positives and so on and so forth. And there is
I love these intricacies.
yeah, there is. We could drill down into
Yeah.
that and make, you know, sort of the width of the lines and the depths of the shading and stuff like that. And I tend now to do a lot of layers.
Right,
I
okay.
like to see layers, which means me doing a lot of shading over different elements that cross over each other, so you can really give that illusion of depth. You know,
Yeah.
into it. So there are layers of pattern, sort of thing. And I'm sort of still working on. I'm still developing that, and I'm still
beauty of life.
trying to get that sort of that kind of it's an illusion, that illusion that
That's a lovely word for
as
it.
opposed to it being flat, black on.
Is
black
that how
on
you
skin.
started? Really, was it quite sort of one-dimensional?
Yeah, yeah. It's just it's pattern on. I mean, it's black and it's what black or white or black or skin. Let's say.
Yeah.
But obviously now I'm sort of building in more complexity to the layers and more direction to the actual pattern work that's going into different. It's folding in and out of itself and layering up and layering over and underneath and just being more flowy. There's more flow within the flow, sort of thing. So
yeah.
It's
As an artist, you've got to have that starting vantage point, haven't you? Sort of, my poetry was very rhyming couplets. It was just and now the inner rhymes, I found the importance of them.
Yeah.
And as you keep probably 2 or 3 years of developing that,
Yeah.
and then as that goes, you even find the words that fit your cadence, and words that fit your tone, and certain dialect that you'd use and no one else would use, and you can be playful with that then, and it always morphs if you're open for that morphing.
That's right, and you can always start to sort of like trip the tempo a little bit
halfway
through, and I get, and it's exactly the same for me. I don't know if it's obviously audio stuff is something I've not really done a great deal of. I've done a bit of writing in my time, and it's one of those things I play with and sort of flirt with from time to time, but nothing really ever sort of sticks with that sort of stuff. But it's the same thing for me. Art is about feeling. When I'm drawing something, I feel what I'm doing, and
the good stuff does.
So every one of my tattoos, when I draw it on, so I draw with Sharpie, and I start with a light Sharpie, and then I'll go to a slightly darker colour Sharpie, and I usually take about 3 or 4 passes before I've got the actual flow of the tattoo around the body and around the actual limb that I'm working on, and then it's a feeling. It becomes a feeling. It's sort of like the pattern work that starts to go and how it flows, how the pattern work goes. If it feels right with me, it goes in. So if it doesn't, it's like having a writer's block. It really is.
So many connections and commonalities.
It doesn't stop. I have a one story of a guy. His family came up from Luton. They now live Dubai or something now. They're from New Zealand, and they came to me for a Kiratui tattoo. So he came one year. He did this. We drew it all on and everything. Was having a good laugh about things. I mean, obviously, the New Zealand accent is quite funny. It's like, wonder we're not set out on your dick.
Sit on the dick.
Sit on the dick. But we were having a laugh about stuff, and I'm designing and drawing this thing, and we got to tattooing it, and got to putting the pattern work in, and within the Maori sort of flow of a tattoo, all the elements and kuru connected to the actual main stem of the kuru are people connected to you. So in some way, shape or form. Now, I alluded to it a little bit before, the sort of area of the body as well can have an impact onto what goes into there. So this was on the back of the shoulder and somewhere up here, and I got the elements in for his siblings, his sister and his brother, and his kids. All these elements were all sort of within the actual flow. There was another one, and I was like, have you got another brother or sister? And he's like, no. I'm like, all right, okay. So I'm still trying to draw this thing, and then I'm like, I couldn't think of anything to go into. There was nothing coming into this particular. It was actually here. That's why I'm doing that, because it's that shape. And this flow was coming in. I was like,
On the shoulder.
it was just on the back of the shoulder here, and I was like, "Are you sure you've not got another brother or sister?" And he's like, "No." He's thinking, "I've already told you twice, so I think you're weirdo." And I'm like, "All right, what?" He's like, "Well, that's a lot. I'm just hitting a block. I've got nothing to go in here. But I want to do this, which indicates you've got another brother or sister." And he's looking at me like, "Are you on crack?"
Yeah.
"What's your problem?" And I'm like, "Sorry, man, I'll come back to it in a bit." And we're carrying on with the tattoo. A couple of minutes later, his wife turned around and she goes, "Oh my God, what about your Colin?" And he literally looked at me and his eyes came wide open. He had got another brother named Colin, who was actually adopted out at birth. But he was still
My God,
part of his family.
dude.
And it's nuts.
You do it to me every half hour.
I've got a few stories like this. Some very strange things happen with these tattoos. And I can't explain it. I just put it out there as to that's what I was getting at that time. That's what I wanted to put in there. I didn't know what else to do. And I could not do anything with that particular era until he accepted the fact that he had another brother.
And straight away, did it come? The thing you want?
Boom, straight in,
wow.
and it made sense.
Yes,
and it made sense. So again, whether you believe in sort of like that connection,
mate,
within the world, whether you've got some sort of like knowledge of that sort of stuff.
Deeper understanding.
Yeah, it's a deeper understanding. To me, like I say, it's nothing major special. It's stuff that we all know. We all can connect to this consciousness, and we probably do. We just don't acknowledge it. And I've learnt through instances like that, through instances of my painting that's got me out to South Dakota, that there is more. There's more to our communication that we are not allowing.
This is stunning. Same with writing exactly. I'll pick a topic or something that I'm particularly interested in or enthused by at a time. It could be something beautiful, or it could be death, it could be anywhere. And I'll let myself free flow. And the second a blockage comes up, I'll give it 10 minutes to 20 minutes, but then I can just go into a reel of, I don't know what to say, and everything's grinding, and then I'll leave it.
Yeah.
Or I can get through it, but I will always leave it, and it always comes. It'll be mid-session, and I just have to stop.
Yeah.
But I'm quite a sensitive guy now. I'm quite tuned in, or really feeling a lot more now.
Yeah.
And when it comes, I get the biggest wave of it. I've cried at times. I'm mid-set and just tears start going down my face.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I know the thing I wanted to say.
Yeah.
And it'll always come, and I just stop everything, write it down, and I move on. And it's the most beautiful, light feeling you can ever imagine.
when it
lands,
comes,
you're just like,
Yeah,
okay,
when you
I'm ready to go again.
But you don't know. Sometimes it happens, and you just don't know how to get through it.
I've fought against it before, and
Yeah.
it did come.
Yeah.
I was like, no, there's a way to execute this and articulate it in a much better way. That's the way. And it's just one word sometimes.
Yeah.
It's literally all you're searching for. You can go on a thesaurus, you can go as far as you need. And I've fought it, and it's been there.
Yeah.
But I've found a real good way now is also leaving it when you need to.
Yeah.
Because the constant fight takes so much energy.
Yeah, it does. It drains.
And you don't need to push yourself there too much, knowing that it's going to come.
I was having this particular battle with some of the helmet painting stuff doing recently. I've had to park the whole thing because, like I say, I can't do everything. I'm able to sort of do a number of things, and there's one project that I will be picking the spray guns up again very soon because my my custom truck is nearly finished.
Nice.
And, I've been working on this for 4 or 5 years, and this is a project. This is a passion project of a different type.
Yeah.
But the paint scheme that's going on it comes back full circle. It comes back into where I'm at. You know
Always
what I mean?
does.
Where I've
Joseph Campbell story, the hero's journey.
it's this truck was it's been a mission, absolute mission, and obviously it's taken a long time because it takes a chunk of money, and it's been done bit by bit, and I've done some of the work myself. I've a company called Jack Shack are doing a lot of the fabrication work. I've done a lot of the stuff, and we started this a few years ago, and it's now nearly ready. It's almost ready. We'll be on the road within the month.
Beautiful.
You know, and I'm so looking forward to that. It's an incredible looking beast. It's actually on my Facebook. You see.
I'll put a link to it.
Yeah, there's the truck. If you look in the photos, there's actually a whole album of the whole build, right from the very beginning when it was just a pile of metal, and you see where it's at now and I'm excited because I know where it's going. So I've got an idea of where it's going to be in a matter of weeks. So I'm really, but again, from a creative point of view, that started because the tattooing started to not get stale, but I needed another influence to sort of give me a jolt again, and be creative, kind of like spur just to do something different. And that's when I started to learn to airbrush and started to learn the custom paint skills and bodywork skills and stuff like that, and panel beating to some extent. And that's, although it's something I'll never be do as a full job because I just don't have the time. But it has become a passion. You know what I mean? It's so nice as an escape to do something creative, but different in a similar way.
Do you have
if that makes any sort of sense?
Yeah, it made
whatsoever.
complete sense. Yeah. Do you have a preference?
Well, I think sometimes with tattooing, the hardest part of it, with all due respect, is people.
I knew you were going to say that. I was ready
It really
for the
is.
people part.
Yeah, the people part can be really difficult to actually, and not just not people that you're working on, but people you're working with.
Yeah.
And sometimes, because I now own a company, or I own 2 companies, dealing with logistics of running a company, dealing with the bullshit that comes with studio politics, dealing with other people's egos, dealing with other people that don't like the way that the studio does some things, but they think they can do better, and they think they know better, and all that shit is draining.
Yeah.
It's absolutely draining, and so sometimes I need to switch off. I need to switch off from that environment and recharge in another way.
Yeah.
And that seems to work. So I tend to skill. I even taught. I went to college and learned to weld because it was something different. But I could see creative elements within the weld process that I absolutely love. I really do wish I could spend more time sticking metal together. It's amazing.
I've got some jobs for you, mate.
But it is. I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed it, and which spurred on the truck build. You know, I learnt to weld so I could build the back end of my truck, and so I did that, and then I sort of tacked it all up, and my welding's not the best in the world, so then I ship it down to Jack, who then sort of like makes it all good again.
A double level.
You know what I mean? So exactly. But you know, again, don't profess to be professional at it, or but I love designing bikes and custom bikes, and I love doing custom paintwork and stuff like that. The paintwork side of things is more me than the actual grinding and bolting of things. You know what I mean? But I can appreciate it, and I
You
can
respect the art form of that.
I can get into it. I can get into it and do it, a little bit, and surprise myself at my competency or inadequacy.
You transform your life, don't you? Do you know when you have a creative brain, but you can start seeing the creativity in everything?
Everything. Yeah.
It opens up a new avenue and angle.
My mum's always had a thing about the fact that I never stay still. I'm never 100% on one thing. The tattooing has been my most consistent creative journey. But as a creative, I take inspiration and I want to learn how to do everything.
Yes.
I want to learn how to weld. I want to learn how to TIG. I want to learn how to... I've got the machines. I just need the time. Obviously, my new thing that I think we'll talk about shortly, in a bit, is another creative element. I've done photography. I've been a photographer. I've been a videographer. I've edited stuff. I've done so many different creative things. The one consistent was the tattooing. Tattooing has always grounded me.
That's drawn you in to the creative
That's
world.
always well, I've always been creative.
Yeah.
I mean, so I've got design degrees. I've got sorry, I said plural. It's not. It's a degree. I've only got one. It was a world that fascinated me. There's so much that can be done, and it's that's kind of who I am. I will always be that person that can turn something into a creative endeavor.
Yeah.
And I've come to terms with it now. It used to be, why am I a little bit flighty? Why do I do this and then do that? Why do I do this? And this was my internal battle. And sometimes it would kind of be negative and stuff. Sometimes I would be like, yeah, but I need to learn to weld because I want to build my own truck.
Yes. This is why we're connecting strongly, because I'm the exact same character, and my mum has always put it in a really negative light. You can't just stick to one thing. You can never stick to this.
Yeah.
I bought a drum set and you have a year on it or whatever, and then you're off.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get you anything again. And that was a kid. She was probably about 8, probably 7. Got me a thing. I didn't stick to it. So then she was like, not going to bother anymore.
Yeah.
But I just needed an eclectic mix of loads of different endeavours. And say with my poetry, got me into schools, prisons and teaching. I love that side. But then I got into cameras and film because of it. How can I, rather than the audio and just say this thing, how do you bring it to life? How do you turn it into a film?
Yeah.
What am I saying? How does it be represented?
Yeah.
But then you get in a camera and you've got to learn ISO, whatever that means. You've got to learn aperture. You've got to learn the focus and all that. But because I want...
Yeah, do you want to specialise shutter priority or aperture priorities? Do you want to,
And because I'm so desperate for my vision to come to life, that's where the learning comes. And it's a new step and a new step.
Yeah.
But because education's sort of very... this analytical way of thinking and regurgitate information, learn, do this... it doesn't take into account people like us and how we like to express ourselves and learn and be moving.
No,
a lot of the time. I think it's getting better.
I was about to say, I think it's better now.
Definitely.
I think there is acknowledgement of different types of learners.
Definitely.
And different styles of learning. But I still, I think by time somebody who is like us, unless they've been able to find one of their avenues to basically base themselves on.
I love what you're saying, yeah.
To be able to explore other avenues and other things. Most people get stuck.
Yeah.
Most people get lost and they get frustrated and they aren't able to then expand on their creativity because whether it be financial or just again, time. It's or whatever else is going on, whatever the restrictions may be. I'm extremely blessed that I found, or tattooing found me.
Yeah.
And I've been able to put the time in I needed to get to a level that has now allowed me to take a step back and explore other ways of expressing what I want to express and how I want to do it. My truck is a personal kind of like bucket list thing that I, as a kid, always wanted. I always wanted a bike. I always wanted a custom truck. I always wanted to be able to build part of it, if not all of it. I'm definitely going to be painting this thing.
Yeah.
And that is going to be a truck that that stays in my family. I will not be getting rid of.
Yeah. Family heirloom.
It's I mean, not because it's the cost. It's just the all the ideas that have gone into it make this truck so unique and different to what it is, to what it should be. Our purists out there are probably going, he's destroyed it, the bastard. Hang him. But,
there's
no,
purists everywhere,
it's
man.
It's mine.
Yeah.
That's mine. That's my expression. That's my beast. And luckily, Jack is a very gifted fabricator. He's 20-something years old, and it's just like we get on really well. And I threw my ideas at him. He then refines them, makes them work. You know what I mean? He's got a truck called the Jackal. It's on Facebook, and that's that was a whole bunch of my ideas for my truck that he did. He even got inspired. My truck's quite a long one. It's a 3/6, like a 9-foot bed. So he extended his actual truck, which was a short bed, to a 9-foot because he loved the 9-foot bed thing. And then I say earlier this year, we got to talking about getting mine finished. And so I threw some ideas at him. This is where I want it to go now. It has evolved. It's changed a lot from what we were doing with it. He's just cracked on, and it's special.
It set you back a bit with the financially? Have you put a lot into it?
I think I've put a fair old chunk in
It's
it.
a good chunk.
Yeah, there's a fair old chunk of.
What's the plan with it? Are you looking to travel with it and stuff, or?
I'm going to stare at it. It's going to be the most expensive garden ornament ever. It's. I might make a fountain out of it. No, I want to show it. I want to do some shows with Jack this year. We want to take both the trucks because it's basically they are brothers. These two trucks are related. You can see it right from the design, everything to them. They are definitely from the same stable, and I think they'll look pretty impressive together. So I'm excited for that this year. That's something that again it's a completely different a different avenue to anything else. But
does it?
I think the reward will be
when you do these other endeavours. Does it give breath back to the tattooing? Do you know, because you've spun plates elsewhere, do you get a thirst, as the peacock, do you get a thirst for going back into where you began?
I think so. I think the departure from the focus, if I take the focus off what I'm doing regards to tattoo work, because that is full on.
Yeah.
I mean, I work pretty much 7 days a week, just because the amount of work is so heavy that I have to do 7 days a week. I tend to sort of like have a day or two when I can, and obviously I go home to Spain, as much as I can, let's say. But it's sometimes there is a gap, and then I come back and I do some more work, and I go back and stuff like that. My wife she's over there, and yeah, we're 1,000 miles apart for most of the time at the minute. But the marriage is doing really well. I think distance helps.
Yeah, yeah.
I think I'd drive her crazy if I was there all the time. But no, it's it refocuses me on some things, and I'm just really the truck thing has been a long project. It's been 4 to 5 years, and yeah, it's had a variety of different sort of lives. It's been on the road before. It's not on the road at the moment. And it's had to wait. It's had to wait its time. So yeah, but it fuels other things. I've already got other things going on, as you know.
Should we go into them?
If you want, yeah.
Yeah, go on. Well,
So-
you're such a fascinating man. You've got a lot. You're very inspiring.
I
I think I'm looking at you like I want to be
do
you.
what you do. Do what you do. Never stay still. And that's. I think that's something that I've only recently, sort of in my age, it's just, I just realised who I am and how I am, and I'm comfortable.
Tony, let
with
me
it.
move that chicken. It's getting on my neck.
More moments later.
Sorry, audience. Just had to go and beat me cock. So keep doing what you do. Keep changing. Keep moving.
Yeah, I think that's been something that it's took me a while to understand. Obviously, kind of like we touched on it earlier, the sort of the negativity of like, you never stick to something, you never do this, you never do. Well, actually, I've realised that I do stick to something. I stick to the fact that I'm a creative person, and that's who I am.
That's helped me. I'm going to take that away from this podcast.
Yeah.
That's really good.
That's who you are. So do what you do. Be creative. Be that person. Don't be protective. Let it be. Just let it flow. In whatever form it wants to come out in. It's you're only sort of like fooling yourself if you don't let it go, as far as I'm concerned. So it means you're signing up to a life of education, because everything you do you need to learn and relearn things that you did before, but now need to implement again. You need to bone up on. I say one of my next projects is a little bit different. I'm more coming at from a comedy aspect, regards conversations and the podcast thing. I don't want to sort of like do the same as what's been done regards the tattoo world. It's based around the tattoo world, but I don't want to sort of like do the same sort of like a podcast talking about people's tattoos and their stories of how they want these tattoos, or so on and so forth. It just, to me, as I said before, the Miami Ink kind of like, I'm having this tattoo because my dog died and got run over by a dolphin somewhere randomly. You know what I mean? I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in the actual experience the person is having at the same time.
That's cool.
You know what I mean?
That's a different dynamic.
It's like, I chat shit. You know what I mean?
Perfect.
I could chat shit all day long, and sort of obviously, when it comes to the banter within the tattoo studio, it's harsh. That's where the element I want to go to. It's harsh, but it's funny. And it's also not particularly PC in many respects, but I think it's also taken as banter and not actually offensive. So I'm exploring that world at the minute. That's sort of the podcast and the YouTuber kind of world of how the tattoo environment is on a day-to-day.
How did this idea start conjuring up? Was it just sitting there
Because
thinking,
I've got
"This
a bunch
is
of
brilliant"?
loons that I tattoo, and we just end up laughing for most of the day. You know, it's just like some of the stuff is just incredible.
Yeah.
It is just I don't know how to. You know, you should watch the Desmonds. You know, it's like the Desmonds on steroids. It's like, you know, you're in whether it be in a barbershop, a hairdresser's, a tattoo artist, or something like this. These characters just come in, and they are real people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they say the weirdest shit.
Yeah.
And
I had in-betweeners in my head.
same as. You know, it's just it just dawned on me one day that
If there was a fly in the wall.
if there was a fly on the wall, we would either be knighted or lynched. You know what I mean? It's
both on the same day
probably
sometimes.
that's a winning winner. So it's just it just hit me. So working out the text on that, you know, now is where I'm at. So we're trying to sort of get the we've got the gear. We've got to now make it work and basically start doing a couple of samples.
Do you think you might start off with like a monthly podcast to start you off and see how you get on, or have you got the idea to start running?
Well, one of the sort of, like I say again, that's the basis. So from that, there has been a number of ideas of how to do this. One is to record and simply put one out at a time, whether that be 1 month, 1 week, a quarter, or whatever it may be. Or do we spend a period of time of recording a variety of people, either being tattooed or not being tattooed, but in the tattoo chair, having, sort of getting the content that we want, then edit it as a compilation. So do we edit it as a compilation? Do we then sit with that compilation, play it, and then talk about it? You know what I mean? Because
there's so much
there are so many sort of permutations of this format that we could go down. So I now want to sort of like get the infrastructure together.
Yes.
Start playing with the format. Start playing with the conversation. Start having the laugh.
Yeah.
You know, ultimately, it's just a laugh. You know, it's like, let's not take this too serious, you know?
Yes.
And we'll see what happens. Yeah, we'll see where it goes and creatively see where it wants to go. I'm thinking it's the same with you, that when you first started, you didn't think it would be in this particular format where we're at now. But you started off and it's basically grown its own wings, and it's now sort of like...
I think that's it, and I've added to it too, sort of this was nearly the direction I wanted to go, being a podcast where I met awesome people that inspired me, and we were just going to free flow, because I'm self-employed and a lot of my day is spent on my own. And growing up on a farm, a lot of people think, oh, amazing, so lucky, and yes, but the grass is always greener.
Yeah.
And I felt very alienated as a kid, and I didn't have many friends around. So hearing audiobooks and stories and podcasts were my solace through life. They've always just been a friend to me. So I wanted to create something that wasn't all about maximum impact and optimal information. It was just two mates catching up, being there, and being a friend for that younger self.
Yeah.
So that the back of the bus sessions has always been an idea of that, but as I've been doing it, I've been meeting awesome people and going, we need to take this into another podcast territory.
Yeah.
So I've had one that was called a Series of Theories, and it was me and this band, and we just love old, Faulty Towers and series like that.
Yeah.
And we'd just be talking about them for 20 minutes and just picking certain episodes and certain series and just saying that bit and that bit.
Yeah.
That took a form. And another person that came on is a professional hula hooper, but she really loves food. We got into food, and we were talking for probably about an hour on different restaurants we've been to and foodie parts. So we started up another one called the Taster Sessions. And we have a question, and then we invite somebody, a local business, to come on and taste some of their food and sample. So we have little taster sessions of their product and then a question.
Yeah.
But it's just why I love podcasts. There's so much scope and possibility.
I'm just sort of like keying into that sort of way of thinking. You know, the sort of the podcast sort of production kind of thought processes, like you say, of how things can manifest.
Yes.
And so, without going into any kind of like sort of like specific format patterns or anything like that, you know,
no sneaky ideas being taken.
I'm just literally formulating the basic idea first of setup, sample, see where we go.
Yeah.
So you know, I mean that's so it's things like obviously the distribution. You start looking at so figuring out how to record, edit, distribute, and once you've got all that nailed, then it is really about the creativity.
There you go.
You know what I mean? The creative side of it.
It's back to what we were talking to with your tattoo there.
Comes full circle.
Always
comes full circle. This is just the way like we are. We are creative people. Don't be ashamed of it. Do what you do. And, you know, I mean, if you can get to a point where, like I say, I'm extremely blessed in that my tattoo career and businesses has afforded me luxuries to do what the hell I want. You know what I mean? To a degree, I'm not a wealthy person at all. I'm just a standard Joe from down the road. But obviously, the way I think it may be a little bit sort of unique for some people. I don't know, but I do what I do. I'm happy with me, and you know, it's took a long time to get to that point.
It's what you're doing with that money. You've got time on your hand doing stuff that you enjoy.
I am doing things doing things that I enjoy, but also things that will influence and help others.
Yes.
I hope, you know.
It's that be the change you want to see, though. If you're doing something,
subconsciously maybe it's not a driving factor. You know, it's. I hope to inspire sometimes. I like teaching people. I like showing people a different way if they're struggling. This you know, for how many times being creative wants to send you insane, it's also very fulfilling. You know, and I don't know what I would do if I wasn't this way. You know, if that makes sense. If I was restricted in the way I kind of think, I don't know how I would be as a person like that. I probably would be in quite a dark place a lot of the time because as it is, I've got outlets. I'm able to exercise my quirks.
Have you been there though? Have you never been restricted? Have you always sort of just followed that? This feels right. No. I'm going to go down.
No, I've been restricted.
You have been there. Okay.
Yeah, I've been there. And my first marriage ended, and I think that was due to the pressures of mortgages, kids, work, not actually being fulfilled creatively, not being challenged in many ways, and life becoming very bland for me at that point. I think it was a turning point where I hadn't realised how to be, how to do to do stuff that would allow me to not feel that way. And yeah, there was a few dark patches. You know what I mean? There has to be.
Is that podcast 2 for us? Are we going down the dark patch?
Are we going down dark? Yeah, well, let's do it. I don't mind.
I'd love to have you back.
You know what I mean? It's there has been some dark situations. You know what I mean? And some, but they ultimately lead to light. So, as long as you can recognise where the light switch is.
Because with this podcast today, we've had a stunning conversation about your passions, who you are, where you've blossomed from, how it evolved.
Right.
Would you come back and do a podcast where we talk about different timelines in your journey?
Yeah, absolutely.
And the dark, because I know, well, we've been doing 2 hours, dude. And
we did an hour and a half before.
Yeah, mate.
That wasn't recorded.
I have met a proper friend today. But I feel you're such an inspiring and interesting character that I don't want to just do a 10-minute segment
I would never have put myself in that category.
Well, I'm putting you there.
Thanks. Yeah. Party of one.
Yeah. You are in my world, man, and that's all that matters to me. But
I would never. I mean, it was the same. I mentioned it earlier. I would never have envisaged when I started tattooing that I would have two businesses. Two successful shops. One's relatively new, and we are sort of getting through the startup side of that sort of thing. One that's been going for nigh on how many years now? 13 years or 14 years maybe. And obviously I would never have put myself as a business owner training people, bringing people on, nurturing people, giving them a career as well. You know what I mean? Now I'm in that position there. I'm doing other things, and I've done some different things in my life. I've been to some interesting places, and I've lived in some some stranger ones. But it's kind of a bit uplifting, really, to so people see you that way.
Well, because that's where I was thinking, I'd love to go to the business side of your nature and hear what it's been like conducting a business, because I'm very interested in that on my own personal level. But then hearing you're travelling and where you've been and lived and all the cultures you've immersed yourself in, there's a lot to go down, isn't there? It's hard with a guest like you. It's so hard to hear 10
snippets.
possibilities.
You're getting snippets.
And then go, I want to go here, I want to go there. It's really interesting.
But
you
I'm not
are
done
designed
yet.
for podcasts.
The thing is, I'm not done yet.
No.
I'm
so exciting.
I've still got the rest of my life to experience this world in, and there is so much to enjoy about it, and so much to learn about it. And then put my spin on certain things and put things out,
Do you know the only thing that's restricting us on this podcast is I use to distribute what you were saying, Spreaker.
Right.
And then I'm allowed an audio file of so long. And I think the longest I tried to do was with Owen.
Right.
And I had to split it up into two-parter. Or actually, I had to get a format to make the audio not as long as it was.
Right.
Because I think we went for 2 hours 15, and Spreaker wouldn't allow any more than that.
Right.
Unless I paid up a notch.
Yeah.
So that's the only reason we're not going down these paths today. I know for a fact we're going to end up doing another 2 hours.
Well, like I say,
it's the world's longest podcast then.
You got some tattoo work to do on you anyway. So
mate, I've got space, haven't I?
I think we get mic'd up and we
dude,
we'll
that'd
have
be
that conversation at the same time.
Just don't rip into me too hard. I'm a very sensitive soul.
No, it's so easy,
mate. I got to thank Owen again because.
No, stop thanking him.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Stop thanking him. He's done his bit now. He's had his thanks. He's had his biscuit.
But how long do you go to and from England to Spain to are you often here?
Yeah, I am. I'm here and there. Obviously with the businesses and stuff, I'm here sort of, and probably about half the time. Every sort of 2 weeks or so, I'm either there for a week or I'm here for I'm back and forth all the time. So yeah, it's it can be a bit of a bind, to be absolutely honest. But we do what we do, don't we?
Yeah.
It's one of them. It's I do love it in Spain, and the reasons I stayed Spain are quite personal, and it was. My sister unfortunately passed away and stuff like that, and I had to stay with her out there while she had basically deteriorated and stuff, and then I drove her back. And there's things which obviously cultivate my relationship with my wife, and that's where that was back in like 2014-15. So there've been some dark times, and that's partly how I ended up in Spain. And then obviously, I sort of took over a business in Spain, and this and the other was still working. Well, she works there, and she's an employee now, as opposed to the owner. I own it,
Mate.
but it's all it is what it is.
Well, there's two ideas already. We've got an after hours cast together for next time when you're back. We're going to the dark side.
Dark side.
And then I think we need a foursome.
Oh, easy now. Not that kind of show.
I think me, you, David, and Owen on a chat together could be a very interesting space.
Man alive, they'd rip me to bits.
Would you be up for it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Dude, I think we could do that.
I love the pair of them.
Honestly,
they're
I know for a fact.
I told you, David got me through a very tough patch, where I came back from Canada because a relationship ended, and it was dealing with somebody with, I guess, depression and stuff. It was part of it. I don't really want to go into, because obviously I hope she got help. I hope she's well. Everything is good with her now. But there was a period of time when obviously I was kind of contemplating going back, and there was a bunch of things sort of like coming at me. You know what I mean? And David understanding the way that mental health is and how it can be, and how my mum was worried about me at one point, because this was living with somebody with issues like that can actually drain you and drag you down. And so they were worried about me. He actually gave me, this is how he communicates and as he gets through to the person. I'm very straightforward. I'm very blunt in many ways. He gave me a "Don't be a twat" card. Literally wrote on a card while we were at Egg. And I was like talking to him about this, and this, and starting up this conversation with my then ex at the time. And he literally just looked at me and he wrote this card and gave me this card. He was like, "Put that in your pocket, and whenever you feel the need to go back that way, read it." So I read it, and it literally said, "Don't be a twat."
I've only met David once, but that's so David.
It was brilliant. It really was. I don't have the card anymore,
mate,
but that got me through.
I can write you one if you want.
That got me through that transition.
That's as simple as life needs to be sometimes.
Yeah,
you reflect in, think about what you're actually doing.
Yeah.
Are you being a twat?
Yeah.
Yes, I am. It can be very grounding sometimes.
Yeah,
just having
and
friends like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I say, it'd be great to catch up with him. I've not spoke to him or seen him for.
We'll get it together.
A long time.
I'm just gonna literally probably say a thing and let you three have it out.
Yeah, that might be dangerous.
I'm going to enjoy it. Maybe I'll bring a whiskey in, I don't know. But just tell everybody where they can find your studios and everything you're about. Cool. And look at your stuff.
Obviously, all social medias, Facebook and Instagram mainly. Ink King's Tattoo Studio, Ilkeston, and Metal and Skin Tattoo Company in Langley Mill. I have my personal ones as well, like Tony Unwin. I don't mind people finding them and whatever if they want to as well. Like I say, top of Nottingham Road is one studio, 47B Cromford Road. A little bit of history with that one. It was another company before us. I took over it because it was already kind of a licensed building, so it made life a lot easier. But that other company are creating a few issues, let's say. There'll be thorns and stuff like that due to the type of characters that the previous owner was or is. But yeah, both doing well. Come and give us a shout if you want any sort of tattoo kind of work thinking about. Of course, all custom work. We have a piercer down at the Langley Mill one as well. But I don't know what else I can say about all that. I'm there. Hopefully there'll be a podcast coming out shortly.
Mate.
And like I say, the truck will be on the road soon.
Oh, dude, yeah, no pun intended. But mate, I'm really, really excited about all the journey you're going on, and it's not finished. You are genuinely constant and moving and being creative, and
Always.
I'm
Always
so
moving.
inspired by it. And this is the energy I want to go and channel in all my different endeavors. So
It's nice to hear. Thank you very much for that, because it is an insular world sometimes. When you're a creative person, you do sort of just get on with things. You do your own thing all the time. It can be a little bit kind of like, am I just doing this for me?
yeah,
You know what I mean? Even though my aim is not to. Clearly the tattoos is what it is, but the other stuff, is kind of me indulging myself a little bit, but hopefully it resonates and connects with other people.
can give back.
And that's ultimately the aim, and to hear that, that it is inspiring, that it is worth listening to.
You are.
We've said a lot of things today that, I know these stories, I lived them.
Yeah.
I don't find them particularly inspiring anymore, but other people that don't know them,
It's their first
it's their first
seed.
Yeah, if they enjoy it, then I'm really happy.
They know where to come now,
Yeah,
mate. Thank
you.
you so much. I'll
No,
do my
thank you.
bit. Guys, you've been a part of the Old Farm Bus, Back of the Bus Sessions podcast. I love you all, and I'm going to leave you on this. I always do, and I always will, and I mean it. Just be nice to one another, you beautiful set of buggers. That is literally all you got to do. Big love. Cheers, my man.
No,